Welcome back to Red Moon Roleplaying, broadcasting the horror tale of the century, Cult of Abaddon, once again conveniently delivered from our cutting table straight to your device of choice, for the shivers and oral pleasure you have been craving. Our heroes continue the investigation. Davis Jones and Professor Reginald Fortesque searched the room of the missing young man, but wait, someone else has disturbed the scene. Despite this obvious tampering, they still find evidence indicating that the young man was involved in a cult. We all meet up again, and Tracy Taylor tells the other about the poor dead girl and how she was killed by a poison dart coated with a rare poison. But the feathers in the dart share a similarity with a common yellow budgie. Thinking their cunning foe must have both means and money, they decide to visit the Colonial Club. There, we discover that said club indeed has a yellow bird mascot, and someone was handling said bird recently. The butler of Lord Alton! We see Lord Alton is present at said club, and await his butler. When they arrive, our heroes casually bump into them and steal their suitcase! For a few moments. It contains the murder weapon. Other evidence all points to Lord Alton and his minions being involved in said evil cult. We conclude by our friends cornering the butler in an alleyway outside the Colonial Club to get him to spill the beans. But he refuses. What will happen next? Find out as we now journey into the third and final installment of the Cult of Abaddon, once again directed by the much-esteemed horrificator, director Matthew Dawkins. This is Red Moon Roleplaying.
Davis is getting quite irritated with this man in the alleyway. Normally his method gets him answers a lot quicker than this, so he's quite tetchy, wondering either what he did wrong, or what's giving this butler so much confidence. Still, for now, I will ease off a little, and in response to the statement he just said, I will turn to Taylor, and I will say, "Is that the answer you were looking for, ma'am?"
I just shake my head.
Look, who is it? Who are you looking for?
Well, I think you know who it is we're looking for. How well is this Lord Alton paying you? Running around with murder weapons on your person like that? I guess the police would love to talk to you about a Miss Jackson falling very, very, very ill and, actually dying from poison.
At that, his panicked expression changes to a broad, toothy grin, and some of his teeth are jagged. He's not someone that smiles often, and that's probably a good thing. And his eyes descend into his skull and seem to darken. Yes, that's it. You're digging into it, aren't you? You're digging down, aren't you? She's not the first person I poisoned, you know. She won't be the last. Why, I think I could just poison the both of you now. Yes, he is paying me well. He's paying me very well. You know, someone like me finds it very difficult to leave their natural habitat without the help of someone like Lord Alton. At which point, he writhes like a serpent and lunges toward Tracy.
Well, could I roll dexterity? Because I'm always ready for a slap.
Very nice. Do athletics and dexterity, please. And you get 2 additional dice for using that trademark.
Let's see. And do I even have? Oh, I do have athletics. Um, 2 8s.
Ooh, okay, well, it's contested because he's going to be trying to move against you as well. Do you have a quip that you can use as well? If you want additional die.
Yes, of course. I
Remember, it doesn't have to be appropriate.
As he lunges towards me, I shout to Mr. Jones. Beware, Mr. Jones, this is another move in a deadly game of cat and mouse.
And of course, Tracy has the time to say that. So you roll an additional 2 dice because you've already used this quip.
Yep. And, oh, it's a 6 and a 1.
It's a quip that falls sadly flat. But either way, you got 2 successes, so he is now going to try and grip you. And he manages to get 3 whole successes. He eliminates yours and lunges his hands around your neck, and you can feel his fingernails like claws digging in, and his teeth, not only are they jagged, but they are hiding a forked tongue behind them as he goes into your face. Davis.
Well, at this, I simply get my gun out, move over to him as he grabs her, point the gun into his head, and pull the trigger. As I do this, I say, "Get behind me, spawn of Satan!"
Good quip. Let's go for... I think we'll just, as you're acting quickly, we're going to go for aim and dexterity, please. It's point blank, so you have an enhancement.
2 successes.
So that's 3 successes with your enhancement. So, kapow! As the revolver goes off loudly on the streets of Mayfair. Luckily, it's a small set, so no one outside hears. And, yeah, the bullet just cuts straight through this serpent person's head. The butler crumples to the floor, his nail marks still in Tracy's throat.
I quickly move over to the body and, not taking any chances, take out my club and just begin battering in its head. You can never tell with these things.
I'm, clutching my neck a bit, as it is a bit sore, and I'm saying, Davies, I think that's enough. This person is dead.
Nay, my lady. That was a spawn of the devil. You need to be careful. But luckily, God was on our side. Quick, we should go back in and find the professor. I fear for his safety.
The professor has exited by this point. Not just because he heard the gunshot, but because he said he was going to leave when they left. So I'm assuming that means the butler as well.
Yeah, he'd have left shortly after him, not immediately after him.
Okay,
but
so
after.
as you leave, you hear the gunshots in the alley to the side of the Colonial, and you know that time is of the essence before other people from the club start leaving.
Oh God!
As you look around the corner into the alley, you can see Davis clubbing the skull of the butler. The technicolor, almost luminescent orange blood spilling into the alleyway, scattering up the sides of the walls and into the puddles around. Tracy, aghast, askance, and other words beginning with A as her hands clutch wounds on her neck. As they're caught up in the action of it all and you're seeing things with fresh eyes, I'm going to give you this for free, John. His leather bag is in the alley too. But you have very little time.
I'm going to lift that and just shout, "Come on, we must not linger here!"
Hi, sir. Let's get to the car. And as we're making our way to the car, I should say, does there be any chance of any keys in there, sir? Could be useful.
Let's find out en route.
Hi, sir.
Yes, as you're driving with the pre-recorded footage of the streets behind you,
With the car going in a straight line, as Davis, for some reason, is turning left and right constantly.
Yes, Davis is manhandling the wheel while the Professor and Tracy examine the contents of the bag in the back seat. According to the rear motion projection, it's somewhere mid-afternoon in London, despite the fact the last scene was somewhere around midnight, but nevertheless...
It's actually a jungle scene behind us.
Rhino charging towards the car. You do find some auspicious items within the bag, and not only is the blowgun there, you are also able to find another one of these medallions. You do find a set of keys, but probably most important of all, you find a letter of instruction. The letter of instruction is written to an individual whose name you could not pronounce if you tried. There's no vowels in it, it's all S's, T's, H's, and characters you don't recognise. You assume that must have been the butler.
He was named by someone who was being electrocuted.
Yes. Or Tommy Cooper. Zazazaza.
That was a ghastly experience. I just pray to the powers that his nails weren't infected in any way.
You are feeling very throaty right now.
Let me examine those wounds.
Well, before you do, the contents of the letter. The letter is from Lord Alton, and it reaches out to this deep in the Amazon basin. How the letter reached him, you don't know, but it seems to be addressed rather loosely. Nonetheless, it got to him, and it calls upon him to serve and take the form of a human host, to participate in a grand ritual. The son of nobility, it says, is due to set. You think it's a double meaning of the word son. We will soon participate in the sacrifice. The heir to the throne will fall, and Abaddon the Death Lord shall rise. We must secure him safely at my residence. This was dated some months ago, and is signed with the seal of Lord Alton.
Well, it is obvious that Alton has the boy. We must locate his estate.
Do you know how literal these things are? If you want to nitpick, Premier Minister title isn't really something you inherit from your father, is it? But then again...
I suspect they're just talking in metaphor.
Probably yes.
However, we'll examine the letter and see if there's anything coded therein.
All I know is that they're the spawn of Satan, and we need to rectify this world of their sin.
Could you make an Enigmas and Intellect, please, Professor?
I could if I would click on the right window with my dice roller. Here we go. That's 6 dice, and I have 4 successes, 3 9s and an 8.
3 9s and an 8. Very impressive indeed. There's no code per se. But the letter you think is written in the way it is to appeal to some kind of primal mind. No doubt speaking in terms of British Parliament wouldn't necessarily make sense to the crude mind of a serpent folk deep from the Amazon. They understand hereditary lineage, that kind of thing, the primitive aspects of monarchy, the countries that still have such arcane and archaic principles.
Like Britain. Well, he'll sort of say, yes, I think it is simply worded in such a way that the recipient would understand it. This slotty Bartfast is obviously someone of a more archaic mind.
I see. Question is, Professor, where does the Lord live? I think time's of the essence. If we don't go now, who knows what they're going to do to the young Mr. Wilson.
And it probably won't be too long until he's missing his... Well, until someone knows he's missing, at least that.
I imagine he would be collected from the club.
Shall we drive around back and see if he's still there?
It may be better to linger nearby and follow his car as it leaves.
I can do that, sir. I'm on it.
As you drive back round, and that's no easy feat in London, but you manage it, you circle back round, and to your alarm, or maybe not, there's no police presence. No ambulance has shown up. A gunshot went off, and yet no one has arrived to investigate. Almost as if the local bobbies might be in the pocket of the lords that attend the Colonial Club. No doubt they've heard of worse noises emanating from that place than a gunshot.
Yes, the noises of Lord Chorpington.
The second, yes. But you can see, as you arrive, hurriedly exiting the club and looking around left and right, accompanied by a small entourage, the individual identified as Lord Alton. He is ducking into a car with a couple of other gentlemen, and with a brum, the Ford starts up and makes its way down the road.
A Ford Anglia.
Yeah, they're not. There's no mod cons. The butler was driving the decent car, and wherever the keys are, well, they're in the bag that you've got. So they've had to improvise.
I looked to the other two in the back. Actually, where is everyone sitting in the car?
I assumed they were in the back to look through the bag.
I look to the others in the back, quickly start turning the wheel, and begin to follow the vehicle. As I do this, I am going to do my best to keep some distance and not be obvious. But I'm going to be very patient. After all, I will not waver from my course. I'm using my trademark of integrity to make sure I follow this car, no matter what.
Okay, I'm not going to make you do pilot then. Good idea. Let's go for integrity and... I think stamina.
Yes.
It's late at night, you don't want to start drifting. You did have a couple of pints of beer before this started.
2 successes.
2 successes, that is sufficient. Don't forget, you've got 4 rewrites left, and 3 cinematics left to use. You keep pace with the car without them apparently noticing you. And you head into North London, and then out of North London, into Epping Forest, where all the bodies are buried, they say. And the estate of Lord Alton. Yes, there he goes. The gates open for him as he drives up the gravel track, and the gates swing shut behind. No admittance for you in your car. You trundle on by so as not to look strange or conspicuous, and pull over a bit further down the road, under the trees. Lord Alton, as you saw it, has quite the manner.
I step out the car to again light a cigarette and have a quick drag of it. Well, Miss Taylor, Professor, how do you want us to be getting in this building? I reckon Greg Wilson will be in there somewhere, probably in a basement or a secure room.
I will say at this point that Miss Taylor, as you reference her, Tracy, those wounds on your neck, as light and glancing as they were, starting to turn a vivid shade of purple.
Yes, my hand keeps returning to them, lightly pressing and fingering on them. I don't want to cause any alarm, Professor, but my throat is getting a bit itchy, and I feel my breath is slightly restricted.
Let's examine this from a scientific perspective.
This person is... No, sorry.
Well,
She says, looking in the mirror.
No, I'm sorry.
all right, but best be careful. I'll bet they're spying on us right now. Watching. Waiting.
Any more? Any more
This is the neck of superstition and fantasy. No, he'll just examine the wounds and see if there's any way he can...
Not with the kit that you have on you now.
Could this be a time? Perhaps you've had a costume change and are now in your doctor's outfit, a doctor's bag.
Luckily, I had a doctor's bag with me.
Yeah, actually, that's a point. We could use costume change and say, like, it just so happens I have my anti-venom kit.
Yes, I fully vote for costume change. It's in between getting out of the car and suddenly now this scene, suddenly he has a doctor's-like attire on.
So he's got his lab coat, stethoscope.
For just such occasions.
Yeah, and his medical bag.
That is awesome.
Okay, it is past midnight now, lit by the headlights in this lay-by. Anyone going past is going to think that something very strange is going on. You examine the neck of this young woman, and yes, undoubtedly, there's venom in those wounds. And undoubtedly it's already reached her blood supply. Without knowing what exactly the venom was, it would be difficult to apply an antidote. However, you did bring your medical bag, just by some lucky miracle, so let's go for medicine and intellect to see whether you've got just the thing.
I'm going to use my trademark of let's examine this from a scientific perspective.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
To give myself 2 extra. And it's a good thing too, because those were both successes. And those are the only 2 successes that
I would have, I did in fact apply a complication. Are you going to have the right antidote? No, of course you're not. But you got 2 successes, and I think that is sufficient. Yes, you do have the right antidote. You would recognize this common rattlesnake venom anywhere. It's the blood variety. I believe the rattlesnakes have 2 kinds of venom. It's the venom B, the hemo version. And yes, you have that antidote on your person, and the good thing is it acts almost immediately.
Yes, drink this and call me in the morning.
Professor? Do I have to call you in the morning?
We'll see.
Miss Taylor, I believe the professor was being witty, as he is so wont to be.
Sorry, I'm not used to that, so...
A fine deduction, Mr. Jones.
Well, thank you, Professor, thank you.
Meanwhile, as you tend to her wounds, time is ticking on.
Now, let us see if we can get into this den of mischief and infernalism.
I'm feeling better already, so...
You are. It's almost like the makeup has been wiped from your neck.
Let's get to it as quickly as we possibly can.
There's a forest surrounding the grounds, so you could approach from any direction other than straight up the drive, but if you wish to enter via that route, it is open to you.
Well, I, at this point, do start ducking a little. I am a bit of a survivalist, so I will say to the others, follow me. Let's see if we can find a way through the tree line, maybe come round from the back.
This is Mr. Jones's time to shine, so the professor will be guided by his experience.
Okay, let's go for survival and cunning, please, Davis Jones.
A 10, so 2 successes.
2 successes, okay. Yes, you do find a way around the back. You're fortunate to be approaching this during the night, as this is a hunting ground, and so occasionally, on your 2 successes, you do stumble upon some pheasants and send them squawking into the air, or angrily chasing you with their damn barbed talons. But you are able to evade them in what is a very short and yet dramatic scene that will find its way to the cutting room floor come the finished version. And you emerge through the statue garden and into the flower garden of the manor. There isn't someone there waiting to say Dr. Livingston, I presume.
I give a few hand signals and continue to make my way towards the house. As we're in a lovely statue garden, I start, of course, using the statues as cover, quickly moving from one to the other as the music is quite dramatic at this point.
At one point standing on an empty plinth in a dramatic pose.
Of course.
As a security guard goes past and looks at you, thinks better of it, and walks past again. No.
And weren't you quite a big fellow as well?
Yes, that's why it's extremely impressive that I'm able to move around this stealthily. Almost as if the security guards aren't actually in the scene.
Yes. You make your way to the conservatory of the house. No one sees you.
Right. Now, when it comes to subtly breaking and entering, I'll confess I'm not that subtle. Either of you better at maybe getting this door or a window open?
Yeah, this is very glassy, this conservatory, and your history of trying to subtly break through glass windows has not been brilliant, Davis. Speaking for previous missions, so...
I can see what I can do, of course.
Okay, could Tracy go for a larceny and I think cunning?
Yep. Like a 5 at least.
It's a shame I can't just command the door to open by shouting I have a degree at it.
I fail.
Excellent.
Probably breaking the glass or something.
But we get a rewrite?
Yep, you do get a rewrite, so...
Yeah, we do.
So your rewrites, having just spent them on a costume change, are now up to 3. But yes, you put an elbow through the glass. Smash, tinkle, tinkle. You see a couple of lights go on in the house.
Oh, fudge.
Now you can hear barking.
I think the three of us should look at each other and then scene missing, and we're all in the...
Actually, I fully agree.
Yeah.
That's where a missing scene occurs.
Yeah, we could see the Doberman bounding their way towards you, and then all of a sudden you're in the library.
The three-headed Cerberite hounds of the Baskervilles bounding along, chasing us down, and suddenly, it's a good thing we got rid of those dogs.
Aye, sir, that was a very interesting thing you did. Now, perhaps we should be looking for a basement of some kind. Something tells me you won't be in the main house.
Who would have known my lab coat would have come in so handy?
Could you teach me that trick, Professor? Might come in handy another time.
Take 2 of these and call me in the morning.
Either way, you're stood in the library where no one is looking for you, courtesy of the scene missing. You no longer have any rewrites. Unless you fail a couple more times, in which case you can use the cheap set. But that means you are alone, reliant on your own abilities. Davis has suggested you look for some kind of cellar.
Isn't there always a hidden door or something in a library?
Now you're getting into it. Exactly. Let's go for enigmas and cunning, please. Or enigmas and intellect, if you prefer.
I prefer cunning, actually.
Go for cunning, then. And the professor can help you on this, if he wishes.
Well, the thing is that human behavior is so predictable. So it's gonna be the candlestick over there.
Excellent use of a trademark, I think, there.
Yep, it was.
I'm going to help her by saying, let's examine this from a scientific perspective, and I'm going to knock on the walls and see if I can find hollow spots for where the secret door might be.
Luckily, the knocks don't signal the Doberman on the other side of the wall.
The Doberman is currently cuddled up in my lab coat.
2 9s and 2 8s.
Excellent. So one thing that we've not had yet is if you score a good number of successes with your trademarks, you basically take directorial control over the remainder of this scene. So you can describe exactly what you find and how it works.
So we're kind of searching the library because this is where the missing scene led us, of course. And I kind of going over some titles on a bookshelf and find one that is kind of odd. Why would someone place a book about maritime warfare amongst the Renaissance painters? And I pull it, of course. It makes the entire bookshelf soundlessly slide to the side. and we can see a spiraling stone staircase leading down, and far, far below we can hear. Is that chanting?
By gum, it is. That is exactly what you hear. You hear chanting down below. You may be too late, or just in time.
Alright, I'll go first. Miss Taylor behind me, and Professor, maybe you stay back the furthest.
Well, he's no problem with that.
Is there a candlestick anywhere?
Yes.
I quickly grab one, lighting it with my matches that I have for my cigarettes, and descend the staircase, illuminating the way with a single candlestick.
As you descend the spiraling, twisting staircases, the chanting grows louder and louder. It's in some foreign tongue. You think Portuguese. You've never heard the like before. It sounds, on one hand, exotic and enchanting, but also doom-saying and filled with the stench of Gehenna. As you reach the bottom of the staircase, yes, that's where you see it. It could almost be off of a horror movie postcard. A small clutch of men, you assume, dressed in thick red and black robes, hoods up so you can barely see their faces. Laying between all of them, on an altar, why it couldn't get more stereotypical, is the young man who you saw photographed, of course, in his apartment at the university, Gregory Wilson. He's been clad in a white toga-like sheet, almost as if prepared to be butchered. And that's when you see it, the flash of a dagger in one of the chanting cultists' hands. Most disturbingly of all is what Gregory Wilson is saying. He's looking at the dagger enthusiastically. He's chanting, "Yes, yes, see, see."
My expression is solemn. This is not the first time I've seen such things, but I do, as I reveal the scene with my candlestick, look to the others. What do we do?
Fucking stop them! God damn it, man! What are you waiting for?
Well, sir, I was waiting for your some sort of plan, but all right, then stop them. I'm on it. And I look to Miss Taylor. You can shoot, right?
No.
No. Well, safety's here.
As you go through the rudiments of how to fire a gun safely, you see the dagger is descending at speed towards Gregory Wilson.
Oh, for fuck's sake!
It's at that point, as soon as I say that sentence and hand her the gun, I look to Gregory, look at the guy with the dagger, and I throw my candlestick as hard as I can at the main leader.
At the high priest.
Everything is breakable, especially in the eyes of God. So I'll use my trademark, using my might to just throw it as hard as I possibly can.
Okay, let's go for aim and might, please.
Two successes.
2 successes is not many, but it's enough. The candlestick itself clobbers the high priest about the face as it goes whoosh, 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 whack into his face. The candle then catches on his heavy robes and he goes up like a light. Woof. Ah! Ah! Por qué? Por qué?
Okay. I step out with the gun. What do you call it? Raised. I step out with the gun raised, and I say, "Now, gentlemen, why fight when we can love? Everyone, just stand down."
Last minute use there of that quip. I like it.
Oh, it's a trademark.
Oh, trademark even. Yeah, last minute use of that trademark.
In all this confusion and chaos, the professor's just going to run up and grab Mr. Jones and go, quickly, grab the boy!
I nod as I just start running towards Greg Wilson.
Tracy, I want a...
Maybe composure?
Yeah, I think composure makes sense, because you're trying to calm down a tense situation. So, composure and persuasion, please.
And 2 for the trademark?
Yes.
Okay, let's see. Persuasion, 4 dice, 3 in composure, and then 2 more. Yep. And I got 2 success.
2 successes. It's not enough to assume directorial control, but essentially you're going to stall them for 2 turns as they're wondering at the meaning of your words. What does she mean, love instead of fight? And who's going to pick up the dagger that the High Priest has just dropped while he's rolling around in a ball of flame?
The answer is Professor Fortescue. Yes, come on.
Well, as Davis runs to pick up Gregory Wilson, Professor Fortescue, you're going for the ritual blade, are you?
Yeah, I'm going to try to get it away from them.
Okay, so we'll do the Professor first. Could you... I know you're not very good at this. Could you go for an athletics and dexterity, please?
Do I even have anything? Okay, I have 3 dice.
Okay.
It's not impossible.
No. Remember, if you choose to fail, that's 1 rewrite towards a cheap set.
Nah. I'm gonna and
Any quip you want to utter while you're doing so?
I don't think take 2 of these and call me in the morning applies here. I'm going to say, how can I work this in? Surrender your tools of superstition and fantasy, and grab that knife.
Okay, you get an additional... Oh, you've actually used this one several times now. So I think that's an additional 3 dice.
Huzzah! So that is 3 successes. Well, actually, it's 4 because one of those is a 10, sorry.
Perfect. So the dagger, in that case, skitters towards you, which makes picking it up a far easier prospect. And so your fingers loop around the handle of this serrated blade, a wicked implement that is no doubt a tool of superstition and fantasy. And you clutch it to your breast as we rely on Davis at this point to get Joseph, to get Gregory Wilson to his feet.
I throw Greg Wilson onto my back, much like as if I was picking up a large sack of wheat. And as I do so, I brandish my police baton and just say to everyone else in the vicinity, "Get behind me, spawn of Satan! All of you sinners! You get behind me now!" as I start making my way towards the staircase.
Okay, Gregory is actually fighting you. He doesn't want to be over your shoulders. So you are going to have to do a close combat and might roll, please. And as you just used your quip, you gain a die. This isn't... You need more than 1 success here because he's fighting against you. There is a complication.
I get 2 10s, a 9 and an 8.
Then that is more than enough successes to not only pick Gregory Wilson up and hoist him over your shoulders, but also to render him unconscious and stride manfully off towards the staircase like it ain't no thing.
Yes, as I'm heading towards the staircase, and the second he starts struggling, I just say, "Lad, may the Lord save ye!" and smack him in the face unconscious.
As we're leaving, can I do something? as we're heading up the secret stair, I'm going to turn back to the bedraggled cultists and deploy all of my trademarks at once in one epic speech. I'll say, "This isn't strictly ethical, but let's examine this from a scientific perspective. You cannot shake my belief in logic. I have a degree!" And then I'm going to run up the stairs.
Leaving Tracy as the last woman standing, holding, pointing the gun at them, in fact.
Yeah.
Are you going to try following that up with anything, or are you just going to turn on your heel and run?
I'm just turning on my heel and running out of there.
What follows is a chase scene for the ages as the cultists try to pursue you through the manor. But you had already made good your escape route during the missing scene, which is sadly lost to time. And now we get to see it from the reverse as you make your way from the library down the chute into the statue garden and back through the forest and hedge maze that sadly we never got to see in full detail or technicolor.
Could I say, just before we exited the building, there was a nearby lantern that I just grab and throw into the house, saying, "May God find all ye sinners guilty and send you straight to hell."
I think the fact that you are throwing a lantern is perfectly reasonable given the genre of the movie and game we're playing, and the fact that, although it is just but a simple lantern, that it catches on the rug, the drapes, the books, and everything else that is apparently all too flammable in this house. It clearly never received any kind of health and safety inspection. And as you exit through the forest into your Morris Minor, you can see in the background, behind your heads, illuminating the sky as the dawn approaches, the burning of Alton Towers.
Surely a big horned figure in the smoke reaching out for us and then being blown away by a gust of wind coming from the rising sun.
Exactly. Abaddon denied for now.
You see the camera zooming in on Davis, zooming in on his eyes. He just drives the car down the road as he says, "Why do you think they do it, Professor, eh? These sorts. They have everything. More money than anyone could ever need. Power to do whatever they want in life. And they'll always be wanting more than what God gave them, eh? Always needing more power or new distractions. You know, sometimes I wonder, who do you think the true monsters are? The devils who tempt folk like this? Or the folks themselves, knowing the evil they will commit, and they still do it just because they can? You know, I shall never understand it myself. I suppose it's like the saying goes, eh? The devil makes work for idle hands. To me, all that wealth and power just seems like a terrible curse. A terrible curse. And the music swells.
The end, question mark.
Yes, that is where we shall conclude our tale, where, due to budgetary reasons we will never understand, why Gregory Wilson was such a willing sacrifice after having been kidnapped. What resulted in the death of his girlfriend? Maybe she saw too much, maybe she interrupted the butler while he was ransacking. We will never know, because there was no sequel to this movie.
I wonder why.
The studio went out of business. But when compared to a lot of the movies of the era, I think this particular story seemed to go remarkably well.
It's probably a cult classic by now.
Yeah, exactly. Among cultists, definitely. So, thank you very much, listeners, for listening to They Came From Beyond the Grave, the Cult of Abaddon. We have only scratched the surface of what this game is capable of. We only merely touched upon such facets as directorial control and didn't even get into character tropes and stunts. That's all in the full game that's available on Kickstarter. But thank you so much to the players, to John, to Jenny, and to Craig. It has been a delight running for you. This, what for us has been a one-shot, but for you is a multi-part serial drama. And I do hope you check out the Kickstarter. This game is a lot of fun. It's not a horror game built for deep introspection and mournful Friday nights. This is Saturday morning fun. With a mixture of Technicolor blood and overacting, which I think all of our players successfully delivered on. So thank you very much, players. You were a delight to run for.
Thank you very much. I had a really good time. I really enjoyed, again, grappling with this sort of rule system, but I really loved the elements in this that were, as you said, extremely hammer horror, extremely silly horror film. And again, I'm just very happy we got to have a candlestick, a secret staircase, and set the whole place. I was very much hoping for either something to get set on fire during that last moment. So I had a very good time. What about yourself, Jenny? Any thoughts?
This was awesome. I had a blast. I love the quips and the trademarks and everything. It made everything so much more fun. Trying to work everything into an angle where you actually could use your quips or trademarks. It was, well, or not working them in, just using them anyways. Would be interesting to see the full game. And I'm gonna, even though I can't afford it right now, I'm gonna at least look at the Kickstarter.
Abaddon has got inside your head.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And yourself, John, how did you enjoy tonight?
Oh, good fun. Yeah, I mean, they came from games that are generally the most fun you will have at our tabletop role-playing session. Guaranteed.
Yeah, John is, for the sake of the listeners, John is one of the co-authors of this role-playing game, and they came from beneath the sea.
Somewhat biased, but there you go.
Yeah, but he also runs a very good game of They Came From, as has been evidenced by the players who partake in them at conventions, and the poor bastards who have to sit at tables close to his, who are trying to play deep and meaningful games and just keep getting interrupted by people bellowing out quips and laughing. So, no, but thank you very much again, all three of you. Thank you very much, listeners, for listening to this one. I hope it's been fun.
I hope it has, for their listeners, that is, because I definitely had a good time. And again, if the Kickstarter is running at the time of you listening to this, which it probably should be, if it is, check it out and please do support it if you've enjoyed what we've done tonight, because this is a great game and the people who made it deserve to receive your, well, support.
And knowing myself and knowing that Abaddon has gotten to me, I will probably back this game.
Well, thank you very much, Matthew. As always, a brilliant game and a brilliant game session and game mastering. And thank you all for being here tonight. And finally, listeners, thank you so much for listening. And remember, if Abaddon summons you, just use fire.
Yeah, just use fire, hurl candlesticks.
And watch out for the budgie.
You have listened to an episode of Red Moon Roleplaying, where we played They Came From Beyond the Grave. This is a sponsored adventure by our friends at Onyx Path Publishing. Look out for They Came From Beyond the Grave on Kickstarter. Game Master was the Gentleman Gamer, Matthew Dawkins, and we were joined by Jenny Bremberg and Jon Burke. The music was from the Cthulhu Cryochamber collaborations. Visit cryochamber.bandcamp.com or their YouTube channel for more dark ambient. We would like to give massive thanks to our champions of the Red Moon, Martin Heuschober, Nastasia Raulerson, Simon Cooper, David, and Julia, for their generous support. And we would of course like to thank all of our other patrons. Without your support, the show would not be possible. If you want to support our work, please check us out on Patreon. You can get access to bonus campaigns for Cult of Infinity Lost and Coriolis there, as well as get early and raw access to all of our recordings. You can also hear your name read on the show as a champion of the Red Moon, as well as play Cult with us. Most importantly, that support is what keeps the show going, so do check us out there. Thank you for listening, and see you soon again.